Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live webinar on a very important and specific subject, causes and natural treatments for acidity and heartburn according to Ayurveda. So even if you're not familiar with Ayurveda or studying Ayurveda, it's a very practical system, an ancient system of healthcare, and they had acidity and heartburn thousands of years ago, and they were able to diagnose it and classify it in different types and different causes of acidity. And then they had dietary guidelines and different herbal formulas that worked then and are working today as well. In fact, in my practice, I have a lot of people coming with acidity, and it's not considered a difficult treatment at all. It's really straightforward, very effective. And most people learn how to manage it and avoid it for the rest of their lives with really only some education. And that's why this is really an educational webinar than anything else. Now, of course, the herbs can make it very quick and make the results immediate. I've had many people who had acidity their whole lives and gave me testimonials like, oh, I never had acidity from the day I left Kabir's office. And that just shows you the potential and power of this type of treatment, which has been around, like I said, for thousands of years. Some of these formulas that we're using today for acidity, heartburn, acid reflux, GERD, sour taste in the mouth, etc., high stomach acids, peptic acids, these are thousand-year-old herbal formulas that are working very well today. So I hope that motivates you to pay attention and learn and maybe make a few dietary changes. And if that's not enough for you, then you could do an appointment and I could prepare the herbal remedies for you. So I want to welcome everybody here. Some people from Tucson, Philadelphia, Toronto, Canada, Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona. Welcome. So first we're going to talk about the different types of acid reflux according to Ayurveda. Now we're going to focus on one particular type, but it's important for you to diagnose, just like I would if a patient came. The first thing I want to do is diagnose the cause of their acidity, and that the different causes are going to determine the type of treatment. One cause is going to have one type of treatment, another cause is going to have another type of treatment. So we could say there's three main causes in according to Ayurveda. One is due to vata. Vata means air, movement. When a person, in this type of person, is usually thin, cold, dry, there's their picture right behind me, vata type, and they get constipated easy. And when you get constipated and the bowels are not moving, because there should be always a downward movement, we call apanavayu, moving down, moving out the bowels, moving the food down through peristaltic action. And when this is blocked with constipation, then there's an upward movement, uddanavayu, where the air is moving upwards instead of downwards. And compound this with nervousness, stress, then the stomach can have like spasms, convulsions. And then there's an upward movement as well because of the blockage. So you get burping. Often before this type, you get burping, a lot of burping. Instead of flatulence coming out the rectum, you get burping coming up. This is the sign the air's moving the wrong direction. It's coming up instead of down. You want the air to go down and out, not up. So when you get this burping and belching, and then there's can be stomach spasms, then it can push the acidity up. And also there's the sphincter valve can have problems, and this is also related. It's they call it a mechanical problem, but in Ayurveda it's a depletion, where the valve is no longer closing properly. So that's one type, and really in that type there's two or three causes: nervousness, anxiety, constipation, and this valves not closing properly. But that's not the type we're talking about today. But that could be your type. If you're thin, cold, dry, cold, nervous, constipated, getting a lot of burping, and you got acid coming up sometimes, and you could be in that particular category. And of course, the treatment for that is flush the bowels, get the bowels moving, push the downward air down. So the treatment's actually simpler. And then, of course, it could be due to anxiety and nervousness, just like the heart can have palpitations and anxiety. Well, the stomach can too. And this can create also acidity and upward movement of the stomach acids. So, but it's not the type we're focusing on. That's not as common. The other type is low stomach acid. This type of person is a kapha imbalance. Kladaka kapha means too much mucosa in the stomach lining. There's low acidity. So then what happens when the person eats a lot of food, then and the acid comes around and then comes up because, they didn't have the acid. And then once the food gets there, then the stomach starts making a lot of acid. The stomach's full. And then we get the acid coming up, particularly when they lie down after a big meal. And this is usually a kapha heavy type of person. And they have low stomach acids. You can tell this type of person is because they have no appetite. They're not eating in the morning. They're not hungry. They're not eating till 4 or 5, and then they pig out and get acidity. So that's another category, but that's not the category we're talking about today, because that's easier to treat. You stop the snacking. You can have apple cider vinegar, lemon, lime, things to increase the acidity in the morning, increasing the appetite, increase the agni, the digestive fire, burn away the ama, the toxins, the mucus, and stimulate the stomach acids. And then they'll get hungry earlier in the day, and they'll be in a normal cycle with just this type of intermediate fasting, apple cider vinegar, and or lemon in the morning. So that's the second type, but it's not the type we're talking about today, because that's easier to treat. You don't have to give all the herbs I'm talking about today for that type. We just have to get them to stop snacking, take apple cider vinegar and lemon with their food, and get rid of the heavy mucus forming dairy, yogurt, type of foods, and get rid of the snacking, which tends to also create the problem, and overeating. So it's more of a lifestyle and dietary treatment than herbal. The type we're talking about today is what we call Pitta is the cause. Pitta means fire. It's this person right there. See, they're warm, hot, red, and easy to get acidity. So this is for the type of person who says, oh, my whole life I could get acidity easy. If I had spicy foods, hot foods, sour foods, lemon, vinegar, tomato sauce, if I had too much, I got acid reflux. This is the type of category which we're talking about today. So I just want to be specific. We're not talking about treating all types, because other types are actually, in fact, easier to treat than this type. This is the type that the person have trouble with. They've tried many things. They're taking Tums every day. They're taking medicine for acidity to bring down the stomach acids, and they've been battling with it for some time. It's not a lifestyle or dietary problem per se, and it becomes more tricky to treat. So just like I tell my students, most important thing in treatment is your diagnosis. If you don't diagnose a person properly, then how are you going to treat them? And unfortunately, we see a lot of people who just think, oh, if you have acid reflux, take apple cider vinegar. Well, now that would have only treated one of these 2-3 categories that we're talking about. And the category we're talking about, a person who's warm, hot, strong appetite, good digestion, loose stools, no constipation, warm body temperature, pitta prakriti or pitta vikriti, then this type of person who has this tendency towards acidity. Doesn't mean you're getting it every day, but you have a tendency towards, easy for you to get it. That's the category we're talking about today. So what happens from the Ayurvedic point of view is you have a balance between the stomach acids, hydrochloric acids, peptic acids, and the stomach mucosa, which we call kladaka kapha in Ayurveda. So the kapha, the mucus, protecting the stomach from the acidity. And this type of person we're talking about today, where it's brought on by pitta vriddhi, means high pitta. Pitta is too high. Pitta means fire. So there's too much fire, too much acidity. And that person will often feel warm, hot. Definitely they're not cold. And then what happens is when this acid increases too much, we call sanchaya. It starts to increase and then aggravate the stomach acids. We call prakopa, where it's become like it's aggravating the stomach. It's not quite acidity yet, but you're getting too much acidity. And the first signs of this are actually a sour taste in the back of the mouth. You feel sour coming up. That's like, the first stage of this. And even before that, in just the sanchaya stage, just where you have the sour taste coming, there's often a strong appetite. So this category of person has a very strong appetite. They're hungry. They're not missing meals, and they get hangry. That means, when they don't eat, they get angry, irritable, short-tempered, because that acid is building up and they need food. So that's the category that we're talking about. So in the early stages, it's much easier to treat when you just have this little sour taste coming. If you can catch it right at that point and change your diet and change your foods, which I'm going to talk about which foods to avoid in this case, then you can avoid it for the rest of your life. But if you're already getting the acidity, you could have some damage to the esophagus, and there could be some already rawness here. And ultimately, you can get stomach ulcers where the stomach is perforated by the acidity damaging the stomach lining due to the lack of mucosa or Gladaka kapha. So what's the first line of treatment? If you start to you're feeling this acid, you're feeling this sour taste, you're getting a reflux easily, then the first thing we want to do is change the diet. What's stimulating this? Well, first, we want to avoid all sour things. No apple cider vinegar if you have high stomach acids. That's for the category, generally an overweight, heavy person with low stomach acids can take the apple cider vinegar and resolve their acidity issue. But in the category we're talking about, this person has a strong appetite, very hungry, can digest most foods, doesn't get gas and bloatings, loves salads, even cold foods, and but if they have spicy, hot, or sour things, then it triggers their acidity. So we avoid these. First, we avoid sour. I mean, citrus, all citrus, lemon, lime, grapefruit, any sour taste like vinegar. The only exception for sour and citrus is the lime. The lime is more sweet than sour. So if somebody has acidity, but they also have poor digestion or amla or toxins on their, covering the film of their tongue and not much appetite, but they're also getting acidity. And I don't want to trigger the acidity, but I want to support the digestion, and particularly in the morning, then I'll say do warm water with half a lime, and that will help trigger the digestion without triggering the acidity. But apple cider vinegar would make it worse. So if you're getting acidity and you've taken apple cider vinegar because you read on the internet to cure and it got worse, you're in the right place, because this is your category right here. So first, no sour things. Fermented foods are sour. Some oranges are sweet, some oranges are not so sweet. So, if it's a sweet orange, maybe okay, but a lot of them are very sour and could trigger it. It depends on the degree of the person, how bad their acidity is. If their acidity is really chronic and they're getting every day, there's no oranges at all, no lime even, if they're every day. So it depends on the individual. If they're, like I said, if it's really serious, we don't do any oranges. But if not too bad, like I'm Pitta Prakriti myself. So, if I have too spicy, too much sour, I can get some acidity, but lime doesn't bother me. Oranges don't bother me. So I'm kind of in that middle zone. So you have to adjust to the individuals. No point to be so restrictive more than necessary. So we want to get rid of sour, and we want to get rid of hot, spicy. No chili pepper, no cayenne pepper, and not even too much ginger and not too much pepper. Again, it depends on the individual. If someone like me would just get acidity sometimes, I can't do spicy, chili, hot foods, but I can do some ginger, some black pepper, as long as it's not too much. But I have patients, they can't do any black pepper, not even mustard, and the heating quality will stimulate more stomach acids in the stomach and produce too much acidity for them. So you really want to reduce hot, spicy, particularly chili pepper and cayenne pepper. And a lot of, I know people with acid reflux who were eating garlic raw every day, and then they stopped that and the acid reflux went away. So, sometimes we get confused. We're reading on the internet about what benefits of garlic. Maybe they're trying to improve their immunity or fight infection. Meanwhile, they're getting acidity from eating that raw garlic. So, they should treat that condition using something else besides garlic, because, you don't want to make a new problem trying to treat one problem. So, no sour, that means no fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, and no hot, spicy like chili pepper, cayenne pepper. And then third, no acidic foods. What are acidic foods? Tomatoes are acidic. Tomatoes, eggplants, bell pepper, but mostly tomato sauce. So many people with acidity or GERD say very clearly, if they have salsa, particularly if it's spicy, that's it, bam, they just get the acidity. So that's just the type of person. And it doesn't mean tomatoes are bad for everybody. It doesn't mean garlic isn't good for everybody. There's plenty of cold people that need garlic and need some heat to help out their body, but not this type of person with this, pitta, vriddhi, high pitta, who's got a warm body temperature and has a strong appetite and easy to get acidity. That's the category we're talking about. They don't need hot, spicy food. They need cooling things, So we want to treat with the opposites. Instead of hot, we want to have cooling things. What's cooling? Cucumbers, sweet taste and bitter taste, like lettuce, arugula, and cilantro. Cilantro is sweet, and arugula is bitter. So that's why this type of person, they like salads, big salads, and a lot of cucumbers on it, but no tomatoes, because you don't want the tomatoes. And so you want to have a sweeter taste. Instead of sour fruits like lemons and grapefruits and all that, you have sweet fruits, like pears, sweet apples, soothing things that feel good and soothing, particularly if there's been damage to the esophagus or damage to the stomach lining, where it's, there's maybe been a history of stomach ulcers, then, vinegar is just going to tear it up and reactivate this. If you had a big cut on your arm and it was exposed and you put vinegar on it, it's going to sting. Salt is going to sting. But if you put something soothing like butter on it, it's going to feel good. If you have a burn, you can put butter on it. You can put vinegar on it. So if your esophagus has been damaged from years of acidity, and your stomach has, either had ulcer or you feel like it, you have pain, then you don't want to have the vinegar. You want to have something sweet, soothing, like white rice, not brown rice, white rice, mushy white rice, sweet things, butter. A lot of times I get people who are vegan, not having any dairy at all, and getting acid reflux. So I actually give them the dairy, but not yogurt, because it's fermented. Give them some cheese with the meal, a lot of butter to protect and line the mucosa and the GI tract and build up more mucosa in the stomach lining. It's a balance between the mucosa, which in the stomach, and the acidity. And if you have too much acidity, then you increase the kapha, the kladaka kapha, the mucosa. This is butter, cheese, easiest. And I know many people who have told me in appointments that they eat cheese immediately, and that can help put out their acidity. Or people who told me they had alcohol, and if they have any alcohol, it brings up acidity, because alcohol is kind of like vinegar. It's strong and burning. Just imagine you have that cut on your arm again, or it's raw from, acid on it for years, and you put alcohol on it, vinegar on it, chili pepper on it. You got the idea? It ain't going to feel good. But you put butter on it, feels great. You rub some cheese on it, feels good. You put some sweet fruit juice on it, pour coconut water on it, will feel good. So these are all things that you want to focus on: cooling and kind of dense and thick things that are heavy and protective, like butter. So a lot of times, like I said, we see vegans who are having this acidity, and once they put the butter and a little cheese back in there, that brings down the acidity. And I had one client, he told me, well, he gets getting acidity when he drinks, so he eats cheese first, and then he can drink a little alcohol and doesn't get acidity. So, I mean, you got the technique down. I mean, he realizes that the cheese is important to coat that stomach lining. And even the butter feels good. And in fact, I have one ghee for when the esophagus is burned. It's called soothing ghee, and it's made yastimaru gritta, it's called in Ayurveda. And this is made from licorice and butter, and you just swallow it, and it soothes and heals the esophagus and helps with sore throats, and even can help with healing stomach ulcers. So we're using the butter to heal from the damage of acidity. So you want to avoid hot, sour, and spicy, right? And then we want to have more sweet taste, sweet like sweet rice, sweet butter, sweet fruits. Okay, so that's the first thing. And avoid these tomatoes and tomato sauce, and even have a little bit more dairy in your diet. Don't snack on it, but have a little more dairy. So those are the general dietary guidelines. Of course, every individual, you can adjust it as per the individual. You should just adjust it enough so you don't get the acidity. Like for myself, I can do fine on a little pepper, a little garlic, as long as it's sauteed, not raw. You start giving me chili pepper and raw garlic, then it can trigger my acidity. Unless I have it with a big meal with a little cheese, and then maybe it won't get me. So, you have to know the limit of where you're at. But it's important to understand that you have to keep the mucosa up and the stomach acids down. Kapha up, pitta down, basically. So coconut water, pear juice, sweet things, keeping the stomach acids down, having sweet fruits, sweet rice, even bitter greens, leafy greens, all good. You want to avoid other hot things that you not think of that are hot, like beet is hot. Of course, mustard is hot. Wasabi is hot. And you definitely don't want this. Fermented kombucha drinks are fermenting and creating more acidity. Just a little bit can be okay, but often people abuse it and have too much. So you want to make these dietary guidelines first. And this type of person has acidity. We tell them never fast. Don't skip meals. In fact, have your 3 meals a day, and in between have sweet fruits like pears, coconuts, coconut water, pear juice, and sweet juicy fruits, not green grapes, not green apples, but red grapes, and sweet tasting fruit to keep the stomach acids down. Okay, so that's the first line of defense, is change the appetite and change the eating habits, and change the foods to be not hot, not sour, or not acidic, more sweet, soothing. So then next we have many teas and many herbs that can help. This is a one that I use. If it's not too bad, I use this one here. It's an Ayurvedic formula. We call it Pitta post-digestive. And let's see there, we got shatavari, the first ingredient. Shatavari is a very cooling, antipyretic, soothing herb. Guduchi, which is also anti-inflammatory. Aviprakitar, which is a formula made of 12 herbs, and a little chikrak move for digestion. This is for a person to kind of like avoid acid reflux, reduces or avoids acidity. And we can take a look at some of those herbs here. Here's shatavari. See, shatavari is very creamy. It's like mucusy. You put it on your mouth, and your whole mouth is covered in this white film, and it's like, it's all sticky. And that's just coating your inside of your stomach lining. And it's very cooling. It's a very cooling herb. In fact, we use it for hot flashes too. And Gilroy or Guduchi, also very effective in helping bringing down pitta. It's an antipyretic. It's bringing down heat in the body. So that's that formula. And that's very good if someone just gets it every once in a while. See, if somebody comes to me and they have a lot of digestive problems, gas, bloating, but they're getting acidity easy, well, I can't give them my usual digestive herbs that have pepper, ginger. If you just say you have acid, gas, and bloating, but no acidity and your body's cold, you get cold easy, then I'm going to give you some hot spices, pepper, ginger, cumin, ajwain, chakratmul, and other like heating digestive to help heat up your digestive system and strengthen it. But if you're getting acidity easy, I can't give you those. So that's why this Pitta Post is such a wonderful digestive aid, is because it's going to help you with improve your digestion, absorption, and avoid acidity. Very, very effective. And another a tea kind of using more Western herbs, we call it Pitta tea. And there he says, it's reducing appetite, toning down the acidities. There's acidity. There you see the spearmint, but the main ingredient is actually fennel and coriander, and then cumin and cinnamon, a little cardamom backing it up. Now, cumin's a little heating, but fennel's very sweet. Coriander is also very cooling, and cinnamon's got a little heat to it, but cardamom is very gentle and doesn't put acidity. So this is like a gentle digestive aid. That's what it says, gently strengthens digestive. So if someone's got weak digestion, not hungry, gas and bloating, but they got acidity too, then I give them this one. You don't see any ginger, any pepper, not much cumin in there, working very nice. These two work very good for mild cases where you drink the Pitta tea with the meal, kind of helps you digest and keeps things a little cool. And then after the meal, have a teaspoon of the Pitta Post. And that'll take out most cases. Now, if they're really getting acidity bad, then we would hand them an acidity formula, which is more like a Tums. It just kind of snuffs it out when you've got it, when you've got the heartburn and the GERD. And this is made of provoked, kamaduta, which is a formula, and pravopanchment, motipishti, and pearl, and fennel. So I show you these. These are actually powdered. This is shunk basma, one of the ingredients. It's the powder from the shell of the shunk shell of a shell. And then pravopishti, this is the powder of an oyster shell. And then the other one here is mutipishti, which is the powder of pearls. Okay? That's powdered pearls in that bag. So these are and then there's pravopanchment, which is a combination of many of these together, pravopanchment. And that's got the different 5 shells all mixed together in a powder. So it's kind of like a Tums, and we just put a little fennel in there as well. It's kind of got this like a fire extinguisher. You're getting the acidity at the time, and you take that and it's chalky, and it's not so much supporting the digestion at that point. It's just putting out the acidity. A tea we have, a Western tea. You can see I'm moving between Indian formulas and Western formulas. We call it calm belly tea, reduces abdominal pain, inflammation, heartburn, and acidity. And it's very alkalining, we could say, because you see that alfalfa in there. That's very bland and alkalining and soothing. And cat's claw is anti-inflammatory, meadowsweet anti-inflammatory, lemon balm from the mint family, but very mild, and there's not much in there. Chamomile is helping with the spasm. See, this would be better for that vata type person. Marshmallow root, that's the mucoid, marshmallow root, slippery elm, fennel, they're all coating the intestinal lining, and a little coriander. So this is very effective for some people. I mean, the trick is picking the right one for the right person. If the person has a lot of cramping and more pain, I probably give them the calm belly, even between the meals, and then give them the Pitta Post after. Now, if you're having a lot of pain, intestinal lining, like a leaky gut type situation, it's not quite acidity, but sometimes I give this tea out where there's a lot of pain, and they're reacting to everything. Then we use the soothing gut tea, and this is this is all the demulcent herbs, marshmallow root, slippery elm, calomel, and licorice. This is coating the intestinal lining. So this is like once you've already had the ulcer, I mean, you're just in pain. It's an ulcer. Then it coats the stomach lining. And we take this between the meals, not with the food. It's also like a prebiotic. So allowing the healthy bacteria, giving them a place to live and to feed on that mucosa. So particularly if you had a lot of antibiotics, you've destroyed all your healthy bacteria. Now you're getting pain, burning, your stomach's reacting to everything. And then that soothing gut tea, we give it between meals to just line the intestinal mucosa, and then take the probiotics to help replenish the intestinal bacteria in the gut. Otherwise, you could live forever with, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. You see people like that, where they're just hypersensitive to everything. And, there's usually they're going dairy free because they're scared of dairy, when in fact butter would help them. Milk may not, and yogurt may not, but butter, particularly ghee, is much safer than people think. People just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, think, oh, I can't drink milk, so all dairy must be bad. But no, that's not the case. But in fact, for this type of pitta person right there, like me, warm, strong, short-tempered, some people say about me, but I don't. And easy to get acidity, heartburn, we actually do very good with milk. And my son and myself, we're both pitta, and we love drinking raw milk. And many people who have this body type, or pitta, prakriti, they like milk very much, because milk, cow milk, is sweet and cooling. Goat milk is heating and not suitable. And fermented yogurt is also heating, so they like cow milk. And I do, for sure. If I'm drinking some cow milk, I'll never get acidity. So again, you're using the mucosa created from the dairy to coat the intestinal lining and to protect it, so it's not exposed and there's not too much acid. You're keeping the acid in place. You're kind of working on creating this balance, and actually all health conditions are working on balance. You all want everybody, you need balance. There's no quick cures. We're just balancing people. You had too much acidity, so we're lowering the acidity, increasing the mucosa. You can do this with your diet. You can do it with the foods. The herbs just do it quickly, fast. They just very quickly can have you immediate results. If you change it with a diet, eventually your esophagus will heal. Eventually you can get it under control, but the herbs will just stop it that day. And if you have a problem, you can snuff out the acidity immediately with this type of, formula, which is made of these powder like powder coral and shells and pearl. It's just powder. It just puts it right out. And then these teas are more like preventive. I have many people that just order only the tea, and they said, I just drink the tea sometimes when I get acidity. It's good. But maybe in the very beginning, they were doing a lot more. Maybe they were even taking this one here. If the person's very hot too, this type of person tends to run warm. If they're very hot, they got burning, red eyes, red skin, rosacea, burning, acidity. Like there's a lot of heat going on here. What's heat in Ayurveda? It's pitta, fire. So this person not only has acidity, but they're getting hot, maybe rashes, skin hives, bloodshot eyes, headaches, burning, can't do the sun. If it's like that, then we give them this one here called Pitta Balance, reducing heat, acidity, burning, and fever. Now it's kind of a combination. There's a Kamaduta again, Pravapishti, Mutipishti, which is pearl, Pravapanchment, which is the 5 shells, little licorice, little fennel. And there's a Guduchi, but this time it's got Guduchi Sattva, not the normal Guduchi. Guduchi Sattva is very super cooling, can just drop the body temperature. And this is like, they cook the Guduchi, which is an herb, and then they just take the slimy stuff across the top and then dry it. So it's like extract of Guduchi. And Guduchi is already a very antipyretic, anti-inflammatory, immune boosting herb. So in this formula, Guduchi Sattva, it's very cooling. I mean, it can just drop the body temperature. In fact, we have another formula called cooling formula, and it's mostly Guduchi Sattva, and it just drops the person's body temperature. We even put some in with Shatavari for, bad hot flashes. So we have a normal, hot flash tea for the ladies who are having these menopausal symptoms. And they say, well, it's helping, but I'm still getting hot. And so I take it back, put a little more, put a 10-20% Guduchi Sattva in it, mix it back up, give it back, and they go, oh, that took out my heat. Gone. See, so it just dropped their whole heat temperature. And of course, there's other herbs in there like Shatavari, Ashoka, Lodra that help with the hormones, but you still got to bring the heat down. It's all about balance. You don't want to be too cold, you know, and your feet and hands are cold and circulation is poor and then you're not getting enough blood to these extremities. You can feel lightheaded and dizzy, and you don't want to feel too hot, you know, then you can get acidity, heartburn, rashes, anger, irritability, you know, hot flashes, even if you're not menopausal. I've had men as well say, I get like hot flashes. I'm so hot. So same treatment, same line, no hot foods, no spicy foods, no sour foods, you know, no acidic foods. It's a similar, you know, vein of treatment because we're treating Pitta. In fact, the next webinar we do next week on skin conditions is a continuation of this, because once the acidity comes up and spreads, this heat or Pitta spreads throughout the body, you know, we call it prakopa, where it starts to move and spread. Then it spreads to the skin. Then you get the rashes, the hives, the pimples, the red burning sensation on skin. So it's a progression of the same problem. In fact, many of these people that have these hives, rash, also getting the acidity. And in that type of case, see, the Pitta balance will help with both of these problems. The heat, the acidity, the burning, you know, very, very effective. Ancient formula, this Kamaduta Ras, you know, it's a formula of 13 herbs. These are ancient formulas these are books right there. These are right behind me. These are volumes of formulas, like recipes that are thousands of years old. So, you know, we're finding these recipes, and of course, I'm familiar with them in India, but we reproduce them here by buying all the individual herbs of the highest quality and then remake the formula. Or, you know, we have to, some formulas are too complex. They have to be sent in from India. So here I have another little helpful tip for acidity is fennel seeds. You notice a lot of those formulas and the teas, they all were using fennel seeds. So, and you go to an Indian restaurant, they give you a little fennel afterwards because that's bringing down the acidity. So after a meal, you can eat some fennel. A lot of times I give people a little bag of fennel seeds for free, and I say, eat these after the meal. And some people, they only get acidity sometimes. I say, no sour, no hot, no spicy, eat fennel seeds after the meal. That's it, it's done. You don't want to over treat, because say a person's not getting that much acidity and you give them something too, you know, cooling, like Pitta balance, you know, which is going to drop the body temperature and hamper the digestion. You can't give that to a cold person, even if they're getting acidity. So, you know, you don't want to, only if that's necessary, you don't want to treat something that a person doesn't have. So you have to match up. These are the tools that I have to work with, is what I'm showing you. And in fact, some of these herbs, sometimes I get the client and I just have to make the formula right from scratch because I'm not happy with what I have. Even I have another one here. It's called abdominal pain formula. And look, for stomach ulceration, soothes the intestines. So there's that Guduchi again, and Shank Basma is a type, is that shell. So it's got the Guduchi, which is the anti-inflammatory, cooling, antipyretic, digestive aid, premier herb in Ayurveda, mixed 50-50 with powder of a shell. And that's really good for abdominal pain, cramping, mild acidity, heartburn, ups, you know. But you have to know these herbs really well so you can pick the right one for the patient. That's the trick, you know, is to get the right level of where they're at. So if somebody contacts me and says they have acidity, then, you know I have the herbs to deal with it. What I have to focus on is I have to find what degree, how much. I don't want to restrict his diet too much. I don't know if he's not getting too much acidity, he can still have a little pepper, little onions, little garlic, like me. We don't want to over restrict and just say, okay, no onions, no garlic, nothing. No, may not be necessary. Just want to do enough to find the balance. Sometimes practitioners overdo it. You know, they learn something like, oh, it's acidity, so they tell the the patient, don't have anything hot. But you can't be saying that to every client. And again, you have to remember there's different causes. I have many successful cases of treating acid reflux. And here we can take a quick look at some of these here. You can see my screen real quickly. There we go. See acid reflux, heartburn related testimonials. And then we can say the protocol includes a heat and acidic pacifying diet with proper food combining guidelines, which is important. And after meal herbal formula, I don't know which one I would give you because I have many choices. Sometimes even an anti-inflammatory tea with meals. In most cases, as my testimonials below show, people will find immediate relief with dietary changes alone, but with the herbs, the results are excellent and the condition does not return. Of course, in case of bacterial infection, a completely different approach is taken using antimicrobials, antibacterial herbs, and immune support. So that's a very good point that I missed myself. Of course, if we have a bacterial infection in our stomach, E. coli, then it's a different treatment alone. But that's a short-term problem. Once we remove this bacterial infection, then we can see the acidity come back down. So again, diagnosis is very important. Here we can see after a few days, my heartburn and acid reflux was gone. My digestive system improved. I had heartburn and acid reflux and digestive issues for years, got better right away after a few days. See, we're not talking months here. These type of treatments, quick. After a few days, my heartburn and acidity was gone. Have more energy, feel more happy, was very pleased. He looked at my body from head to toe in balance with, and he brought his body to balance within 2 or 3 weeks. Overall, my health started to improve when I contacted him. Kabir, I think she's also talking about acidity in here. I no longer had acid reflux, bloating, or the soreness in my upper stomach. These are all the results of this changes in diet and picking the right formula. Here's somebody, I'm finally off of the medication for acid reflux. I no longer get acid reflux, which I've suffered from my entire life. And on top of that, I'm finally off the medication for acid reflux that I've been on for over 20 years. I want to do is give a true and sincere thanks to everything that you do. So you can see that, it's definitely successful, this type of treatment, and results will be there. If you have the discipline to make the changes to your diet, then it probably won't even come back. Most people, I treat them for 1-2 months. Sometimes people reorder, some of these products years later or for a few months. And sometimes I don't hear from people for 2-3 years, and then they get it back. I remember one man, he says, oh, I'm getting all the acidity again. I looked at his case file and I found out that, it was 2-3 years ago, and he said he was happy. He gave me a testimonial. And he said, well, he got married, and a woman was Italian. She started cooking tomato sauce. He didn't worry about it. He hadn't had acidity for years. He kind of forgot, and then it all came back. And then when he stopped the tomatoes, he couldn't get rid of it. I've heard this before too, where people actually forget everything I told them after a couple years. I told them no hot, no sour, no spicy. They go, okay. And they took the herbs, it was gone. They forgot about me. 2-3 years later, they get the acidity came back. And then even changing the diet, they couldn't get rid of it. But most cases, people say it comes back, but as long as I don't do the spicy, sour, or acidic foods, I'm fine. If I eat those, I get it. Simple. Or some people say I can have 1 spicy meal, but if I have 2, then I'll get it. So, it's important to know your own line. And people say, well, as long as I'm having cheese and butter and, and not missing meals, I'm fine. So, eating habits are important. What you eat, food combining is important. And these herbs become the tools to solve it quickly. and to take care of it and to bring the acidity down fast, to help support the stomach mucosa and help protect it. And then sometimes there's a second stage where I have to help heal the stomach from past ulcerations. So I hope that gave you some information there. If you have acid reflux and GERD or heartburn, then I wouldn't jump to this treatment right away unless you're in the category that we're talking about. If you're having low stomach acids, and it's a different treatment. If you're getting nervous type of acidity, or as I mentioned, if you have an infection in the stomach, then these are different causes and need to be treated in a different manner. And feel free to contact me and I can help you to treat these conditions as well. But if you're in this category where you're having a lot of stomach acids, strong appetite, and easy to get acidity, then the first thing you can do is follow the dietary guidelines first. Cut out the sour foods, the hot foods, and the acidic foods. Have more sweet foods and have a little bit more butter and cheese with your food to help bring up the stomach mucosa. Try that first. And if you're still having problems, then feel free to do an appointment, and I will help you out and take care of you. So once again, I sincerely hope this helps people to overcome this condition, which I've treated for many, many years and got very good at treating. So I'm happy to share this knowledge and help people to treat themselves as much as possible, because knowledge is really what it's all about in addressing many of these health concerns. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending, and I hope you learned sincerely, and feel free to contact me if you have you're not able to resolve it on your own, you feel you need the herbs and the help, and of course, if you have any other health issues as well, high blood pressure, diabetes, joint pain, arthritis, etc., feel free to contact me. Happy to discuss your case with you and tell you what can be done.